Well, good afternoon, everyone. We are having a community update and briefing today, and we're actually here at the Long Beach City Council Chambers, which is a place that we have not, and the public has not had a chance to use for many, many months due to this pandemic. We do have some updates today, but I want to start by being able to spend just a few minutes recognizing the significance of what today is for us as a city. And how we have spent this last year losing so many people that we love from our family, our friends, and our coworkers. Now, 1 year ago today, exactly on the day, Long Beach lost our very first neighbor, resident from the city of Long Beach. 1 full year later, today, we have now lost 901 Long Beach residents to COVID-19. COVID-19 and this pandemic has been the single largest cause of death of any event any given year in the history of our city. And I've mentioned this before, but not the earthquake of the 1930s, not any year of gun violence, or even at one point at the spike that we had in the 1990s, has taken so many lives from us as a community. So 1 year later, from our very first person that passed to today, where we are at 901 lives that we have lost. And I have personally had conversations and met and talked, communicated, whether it's been through social media, through a phone call, with many people that have lost folks within our community. And I want them all to know that as a city, we mourn with you, we pray with you, we support you. And I personally, of course, understand how deep of a loss it is to lose family in this way, and what has happened over the course of the last year. And my family stands with every single family that has lost somebody. As far as those that we have lost, 70% of them have been our older adults. 20% of them were a bit younger, were over 50, and we still lost even people that were young people in our community. Still, everyone was impacted across the city. And every person, of course, that has passed has left behind a story and a legacy, and we remember each of them individually. I want to first pause and do a moment of silence, and I hope that those that are watching and across the city, I know many are joining, to just take a moment of silence as we pause and reflect on these 901 lives and their families that we will remember in many ways in the years ahead. So let's please begin by just taking a moment of silence. Thank you very much. And of course, to all the families, we love you and honor you and support you. Now, in honor of this remembrance today, we will be lighting all of our city landmarks, all of our major landmarks in white tonight. And that, of course, includes our Civic Center, our airport, our bridge, the lighthouse, and so many other opportunities that we have across the city. And so those will be lit white tonight just to remember the 901 lives that we've lost. And as a reminder, there are still folks struggling right now in the hospital that are some on the verge of also losing their battle with COVID. And so that number will get higher, and we'll continue to honor and support them. Now, I want to just say a few brief remarks about what also happened in Boulder, Colorado, and what has been going on across the country as it relates to hate crimes and hate against our Asian American community, our AAPI community. First, I want to thank Councilwoman Solisaro and the council for presenting a resolution that puts the city very clearly on the position of supporting our Asian American community, and that was done last week. There was Councilwoman Saro who is our first Cambodian American woman elected, Cambodian American elected, period, in our city, which we're very proud of, has also been leading events and memorials, and we stand with her and with our entire AAPI community. There is no place for that type of hate in our city, and we completely renounce it and continue to stand with our Asian and Pacific Islander communities here in Long Beach and across the country. In addition to that, we saw a horrific event in Boulder, Colorado, that reminds us of how serious these mass shooting events continue to be across our country. Our love, our prayers go out to everyone affected, including, of course, all the families, the police officer who lost his life. But I think we all know that while we can pray and we can send love, this is a time also that we need action from the Congress and action from the country to ensure that these incidents around gun violence and particularly around mass shootings don't continue. And there are common sense solutions that we know that we support here in our city and beyond. And I also want just to spend a few moments to talk about another really sad incident that happened just last evening. As most folks probably know, our Pride lifeguard station that we love so much and that was painted by lifeguards who are members of the LGBTQ+ community burned down just yesterday evening. Now, this lifeguard station was actually recently painted just in the last year or so, and was a beautiful symbol of what our city represents, and that is supporting everybody, and of our large and diverse LGBTQ+ community. I want to just note that the fire is currently under investigation, and our fire department and police department, of course, will be doing a full investigation as it relates to the fire. Personally, however, I also want to make it clear, and I've mentioned this to our team, that I personally have little doubt that this was not an act of hate. This, I believe, was. And so to whoever committed this act, just please know that, one, you are not welcome in our community, and two, that we will rebuild the lifeguard station brighter, gayer, and bigger than it was before. And for those that don't know, that lifeguard station, and why I also believe this case to be true, is talking to our marine safety chief. This station had no electricity, there was no gas, there was no power lines. And as far as our marine safety division can remember, there has not been a lifeguard station that has burned down since the 1950s, as far as they can remember. The 1950s. And so, and we're aware, of course, that oftentimes, sometimes people experiencing homelessness or young kids might go out to the stations and hang out around them sometimes at night, even though that's not supposed to happen. But regardless of all of that, the fact that over decades and decades and decades since the 1950s, we've had one lifeguard station burned down, and it was the one that was just recently painted in the Pride colors, I think makes it abundantly clear that this was done by folks that don't believe in the rights and really love that our gay and lesbian and trans and plus community is all about here in our city. So we'll continue to speak out against these incidents. I look forward to the investigation that will continue. But I also want people to know that we're going to build it back, and it's going to look great, and we're looking forward to that as well. And lastly, I just want to note on our vaccine distribution that we continue to do well. And I want to just end, before I turn this over to Dr. Davis, just saying that we have now completed almost 25%, almost 25% as of today, of our entire population has received the vaccine. And when you only count those eligible to receive, so those 16 plus and above, because we know kids can't get the vaccine, it's over 30% of our population. So we're going to be in the days ahead nearing 1/3 of our eligible population will have been vaccinated. And again, it's about 25% of our total population. To put that in perspective, at our neighbors in LA County, they're about 18 to 19% of their total population. So we are doing, I think, a nice job of maintaining a good pace for the county and for the state. And so with that, again, it is a somber day, but it's one that we also got to stand up against all of the violence and hate that is happening. And I want to turn this over to Dr. Davis, who will be giving us also some additional updates.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. Good afternoon. As the mayor mentioned, our country continues to see disturbing acts of violence against Asian American communities and senseless acts of gun violence in general. My heart goes out to the families of the victims of the shootings in Atlanta and the shootings in Colorado, and to all those in the Asian American community who have suffered violence, not just this week, but throughout the past year. The Asian community is not to blame for COVID. A virus causing a pandemic can start anywhere. It's believed that H1N1, which caused a pandemic in 2009, originated in pigs in North America, and the virus that causes HIV originated in Africa. A pandemic is never anyone's fault, and no person should feel unsafe leaving their house because of their ethnic identity. What's happening to our Asian friends, family and loved ones, neighbors and coworkers is a disgrace, and we need to do better. So now I'd like to turn to talking about the UK variant. There's a new strain of the COVID-19 virus which was recently found in Long Beach. This variant, originating from the UK and also known as B117, was first detected in the United States at the end of December and has since been detected across the US and the world. It's more contagious and spreads more easily and quickly than other variants. So far, studies suggest that the antibodies generated through vaccination with the currently available vaccines that we have recognize these variants. So meaning that any of these available COVID-19 vaccines are effective against this B117 or the B117 variant. Research on this variant is ongoing as public health officials continue to study these variants to learn more to control their spread and protect public health. We remind everyone that rigorous compliance with our health order, vaccination when you're eligible, physical distancing, wearing facial coverings, and proper hand hygiene and sanitation are essential to limit the spread of the virus that causes COVID-19 and further protect public health. I also want to briefly reiterate some updates from our revised health order, and thank you for your compliance. Thanks to all of our collective hard work, we're now in the second week of the red tier of the state's Blueprint for a Safer Economy, which indicates that we have substantial spread of COVID. In the red tier, various sectors, businesses, and activities have recently resumed certain operations with capacity and other restrictions, including indoor dining at restaurants and indoor operations at gyms and fitness centers. I want to thank our businesses for making the appropriate modifications to operate according to the city's health order. Now we're at a crossroads. People are getting vaccinated, and more people than ever are immune, either from vaccination or from being infected with COVID-19 in the past. Our case rates and our positivity are also going down. That's all good news. But nationally, our case rates have plateaued at a substantial level, and there's still not enough vaccine for everyone who wants it. And add to this, we are seeing more air travel in the last 7 days than we've seen at any other time during the pandemic, as evidenced by the numbers that are being screened by TSA at our airports. This is the most air travel we've seen since March 15th of 2020. Some locals might be traveling to states that aren't following precautions, and some from those states are traveling here. That could mean more cases coming our way in the weeks ahead. We're also getting ready to open schools for thousands of children, teens, and staff to return to in-person instruction. We want all of our businesses and school openings to be successful. That will require all of us to do our part. It's critical that everyone continue to follow all health and safety protocols to limit the spread of COVID-19. Err on the side of caution when possible. I don't want to diminish the progress we've made, but I want to emphasize that it's not over yet. Lastly, as we continue to vaccinate more and more people each week, I encourage anyone interested in receiving a COVID-19 vaccination to sign up with MyTurn, the state's COVID-19 vaccine notification and appointment system. We have a link to MyTurn on our website via our vaccination hub at longbeach.gov/vaxlb, or you can visit myturn.ca.gov to register. MyTurn is intended to help manage vaccine distribution and connect people to vaccines at a regional level. MyTurn allows for vaccine appointments within a 50-mile radius and will send timely notifications to registered users based on their eligible phase and tier. For more information about MyTurn, visit myturn.ca.gov or call 833-422-4255. Getting vaccinated when it's your turn is one of the best ways to ensure that this pandemic ends. Thank you. I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you. We will now take questions from the media. As a reminder, there is time for one question each. Additional questions can be sent to the Long Beach Joint Information Center. First question comes from Kelly at the Long Beach Post. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Yes, hi, this question. I have just two quick questions for Dr. Davis. You'd mentioned that just briefly that the UK variant has been discovered in Long Beach. Can you say roughly when that was discovered and if it was more than one case? And also just quick question, our positivity rate is down to 1.5%. And is that the lowest we've seen now since the start of the pandemic? And do you believe that's a sign of less community spread or less people getting tested, or is that a sign that we're seeing it less in the community?
Thank you. So the first question was about the variant. So there's a long turnaround time now when you send a sample to get the sequencing that you need in order to determine what type of variant it is. So it's several weeks. So this occurred in around the February timeframe. As far as we know from the testing that we've done, it's just been one case. And so we will definitely keep you updated. But we know that it's in the region. It's all over the United States. It's definitely in Southern California. So we would 100% expect to see more of this variant and other variants as well. And then as far as the percent positivity, I would have to check back and see if this is the lowest that it's ever been. There's definitely been a decrease in testing, but I also think that it is a sign of less community transmission, just fewer cases and all. However, we are still at a substantial community transmission rate, we are seeing around 20 to 30 new cases a day. So it is still really important that everyone know that if you're out and about and you're in close contact with other people, that there is still a risk. And so it's still really important to follow all of the mitigation measures. Wearing a mask and physical distancing are really the cornerstone, and then getting vaccinated when it's your turn are still very, very important for us to make sure that we don't start going in the wrong direction, because we are seeing some rising cases in other states.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Next question is for you as well. It comes from Haley at the Press Telegram. Haley, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hi, Dr. Davis. My question is also about the identification of the UK variant. Can you share how many samples Long Beach is normally sending to be tested for these different variants, and if there are plans to increase the number of samples that are being tested now that it has been identified here?
So we're sending, I would say around a dozen or so a week, and they come from all over the city. So it's not just our health department, and so it's difficult to have like a firm number because other labs can also send samples to the state, or they can do the sequencing themselves. And, I think in general, like as a nation and as a state, we want to do more sequencing. So there's definitely plans in the works to increase capacity in order to do more sequencing and to shorten the turnaround time.
Okay, next question comes from KNBC. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on. Next question is for the mayor. It comes from Elena at the Long Beach Post. Elena, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Yes, hi. I wanted to ask about the Pride Tower, and I was wondering, Long Beach prides itself in being a very diverse and welcoming city, including to members of the LGBTQ community. Were you surprised when you heard that the lifeguard tower had been destroyed, and kind of what was your personal reaction as a member of that community?
I think, first understanding that I remember my first call, and I was talking to our Marine safety chief this morning, and trying to remember the last time an actual lifeguard station had burned down. And I thought, I don't remember once as long as I've been in Long Beach. It's been a couple decades, and we did, he did some quick research, and they can't recall or have an incident going back all the way to the 1950s. They've gone all the way back to then, and so it was surprising to see, of course, a lifeguard tower burned down, but for it to be the one tower that was recently painted in pride colors was surprising from a perspective of how supportive the city is. But that doesn't diminish that there is still hate that exists and hate incidents that happen across our city. I was mentioning to someone earlier today that as an openly gay person, certainly as mayor of our city, I get some horrific messages still on occasion. I've had folks walking down the street call me the F word. Which is obviously a term that is should not be said to people, and I'm the mayor, so that happens to me. It happens to a lot of people, and so there is still hate and incidents that happen to gay people, to trans people, to lesbians in our community, to queer folks in our city. That is happening every day, and so yes, Long Beach is a beautiful, diverse, inclusive place. It is probably more progressive on LGBTQ plus issues than most places across the country, but that doesn't diminish that hate and incidents and prejudice it all still exists. It exists in our country, and it exists in Long Beach. And unfortunately, it is perpetuated by sometimes folks in government, and it is perpetuated by folks that don't believe that everyone should have equal protections under the law. And so I personally am both saddened and angered by the incident that happened, and feel as a member of this community that it was absolutely motivated by these people that don't believe in equality for everyone.
Thank you. That concludes questions. We will now move on to Spanish interpretation.
Muy buenas tardes, gracias por acompañarnos. Hoy es nuestro comunicado de prensa para el martes 23 de marzo del 2021. Hoy nos acompañó el alcalde Garcia y la doctora Davis, oficial de salud de la ciudad. Hoy es un día triste en Long Beach, ya que es el aniversario del día en que informamos de la primera muerte relacionada con el coronavirus de un residente aquí en la ciudad de Long Beach. Ese día también informamos un total de 21 casos positivos y 4 personas hospitalizadas. Al día de hoy, 51,817 residentes de la ciudad de Long Beach han dado positivo por coronavirus o COVID-19 y hemos perdido un total de 901 personas o residentes de Long Beach por COVID-19. Ni el terremoto de los 30s ni el crimen de los 90s en esta ciudad ha tomado tantas vidas como el COVID-19. Más de la mitad de esas pérdidas se produjeron durante el aumento repentino del invierno. 512 personas murieron a causa del COVID-19 entre el 7 de diciembre y el 29 de enero. El 70% de esas personas que hemos perdido han sido adultos mayores de 65 años y el 20% mayores de 50. A pesar de que el aumento ha terminado, la tragedia de las pérdidas continúa para muchos en nuestra ciudad. Precisamente hoy estamos informando 5 nuevas muertes y 110 de nuestros residentes están hospitalizados y luchan contra el COVID-19 en este momento. Cada persona que ha muerto a causa de este virus está siendo llorada por su familia, amigos y seres queridos, y también por todos nosotros. Apoyamos a aquellos que han sido afectados por cada una de esas pérdidas. En honor a ese recuerdo, esta noche los lugares emblemáticos de la ciudad se iluminarán en blanco, incluido nuestro centro cívico en el centro de Long Beach, la terminal del aeropuerto de Long Beach, el faro y puente de Rainbow Harbor y también el letrero de la entrada de la autopista 710. A medida que avanzamos en nuestro día de hoy, reconozcamos y recordemos la primera vida perdida y todas las vidas perdidas debido a COVID-19. Ahora vamos a hablar sobre otras noticias sombrías. A estas alturas estoy seguro de que todos hemos escuchado las devastadoras noticias de que la semana pasada 8 personas, 6 de las cuales eran mujeres asiáticas, fueron asesinadas en un tiroteo masivo en Atlanta, Georgia. Eventos trágicos como este se suman a la creciente preocupación por los crímenes de odio contra las comunidades asiático-americanas y de las islas del Pacífico en todo el país. Aquí en Long Beach apoyamos a nuestros residentes, dueños de negocios y vecindarios de origen asiático y de las islas del Pacífico y nos oponemos a estos actos de violencia y aborrecibles que tienen lugar en todo nuestro país. Estos actos de violencia son inquietantes y aborrecibles y no vamos claro, vamos a apoyar a nuestras comunidades para asegurar que los estamos manteniendo seguros. Nuestros corazones están con las familias de las víctimas de los tiroteos en Atlanta y con todos aquellos en la comunidad asiático-americana que han sufrido violencia no solo esta semana, sino a lo largo del año pasado. La comunidad asiática no tiene la culpa de COVID-19. Un virus que causa una pandemia puede comenzar en cualquier lugar. Si recuerda, en el 2009, el H1N1 H1N1, que causó una pandemia en aquel entonces, se originó en los cerdos en América del Norte y el VIH se originó en África. Una pandemia nunca es culpa de nadie y ninguna persona debe sentirse insegura al salir de su casa debido a su identidad étnica. Lo que les está sucediendo a nuestros amigos, familiares y seres queridos de origen asiático, vecinos y compañeros de trabajos es una vergüenza y deberemos hacer mejor en nuestra comunidad. Esta semana hubo otro tiroteo masivo en Boulder, Colorado. Recordándonos a todos que el nivel de violencia armada se mantiene un serio problema en nuestra comunidad y en todo el país. Nuestra ciudad está con todas las víctimas de este crimen horrendo y nuestros corazones están con todos aquellos afectados. Esos incidentes como los que pasaron en Boulder, Colorado y en Atlanta, Georgia, no son únicos a esta ciudad y mantienen una preocupación por todos lados. Por eso el alcalde cree muy firmemente que debe de haber leyes más estrictas de armas al nivel federal. Apenas anoche, nuestro torre de salvavidas Pride, que fue pintado durante el mes de Pride el año pasado, se quemó. Y el incendio está bajo investigación y el alcalde mencionó que él personalmente cree que fue un acto de odio. Y la torre sirve como un símbolo en nuestra comunidad del gran apoyo de diversidad de los bomberos, nuestros salvavidas, nuestra ciudad y también toda la comunidad gay, lesbiana que llaman a Long Beach su casa. Para la persona que hizo esto, no es bienvenida en nuestra comunidad y lo vamos a reconstruir más fuerte y brillante que nunca. Vamos a asegurarnos que todos estemos apoyando a todos los residentes en esta ciudad. Las vacunas. Continuamos vacunando a tantas personas en categorías elegibles como lo permite nuestro suministro, dependiendo de todas las vacunas que estamos recibiendo semanalmente. Actualmente, los elegibles para vacunas incluyen trabajadores de la salud, residentes y personal de cuidados a largo plazo, adultos de 65 años o más, trabajadores gubernamentales de respuesta a emergencias, trabajadores de la educación y cuidados de niños, trabajadores de la agricultura o alimentación, residentes de 16 años a 64 años de edad con discapacidades físicas o del desarrollo, servicios de limpieza y custodians, trabajadores del transporte público. Y la semana pasada comenzamos a vacunar a los residentes de 16 a 64 años de edad con afecciones médicas subyacentes. Hasta ayer se han administrado un total de 177,694 dosis de vacunas en Long Beach a personas que viven o trabajan en la ciudad. De estos, 117,835 son primera dosis y casi 60,000 son la segunda dosis. Se han vacunado más de 113,000 residentes de Long Beach. En general, el 21.1, un poquito más de 24% de nuestra población ha recibido al menos una dosis de la vacuna. Y si miramos solo aquellos que son elegibles para la vacuna, personas que son de edad 16 para arriba, hemos vacunado más del 30% de nuestra población aquí en la ciudad de Long Beach. Como recordatorio, todos los residentes, incluso aquellos que han recibido la vacuna, deben continuar cubriéndose la boca, manteniéndose con una distancia física adecuada de los demás y seguir practicando todos los protocolos de salud y seguridad. La variante del Reino Unido, aquellos de ustedes quizás ya hayan escuchado que una nueva variante del virus COVID-19 ha sido encontrada recientemente aquí en la ciudad de Long Beach. Esta variante originario del Reino Unido se detectó por primera vez en los Estados Unidos a finales de diciembre y desde entonces se ha detectado en los Estados Unidos y por todo el mundo. Aquí en la ciudad de Long Beach, la doctora Davis mencionó que aproximadamente fue aquí detectado en febrero. Se propaga más fácil este variante y rápidamente que otras variantes y puede resultar en un mayor riesgo de síntomas fatales y enfermedades relacionadas. Hasta ahora, los estudios sugieren que los anticuerpos generados mediante la vacunación con las vacunas autorizadas actualmente reconocen estas variantes, lo que significa que cualquiera de las vacunas de COVID-19 disponibles es eficaz contra esta mutación. La investigación sobre esta variante está en curso, ya que los funcionarios de salud pública continúan estudiando estas variantes para obtener más información sobre cómo controlar su propagación y proteger a la comunidad. Recordamos a todos que el cumplimiento riguroso de nuestra orden de salud, la vacunación, el distanciamiento físico, el uso de cubiertas faciales, higiene y desinfección adecuadas de las manos son esenciales para limitar la propagación del virus que causa COVID-19 y protege aún más la salud pública. Eso también contra las variantes. También queremos reiterar brevemente algunas actualizaciones de nuestra orden de salud revisada. Gracias a nuestro arduo trabajo colectivo, ahora estamos en la segunda semana del nivel rojo del Plan Estatal para una economía más segura. En el nivel rojo, varios sectores, negocios y actividades han reanudado recientemente ciertas operaciones con capacidad y otras restricciones, que incluyen comidas en interiores en restaurantes y operaciones en interiores en gimnasios y centros de fitness, de ejercicio. Queremos agradecer a nuestras empresas por realizar las modificaciones apropiadas para operar de acuerdo con la orden de salud aquí de la ciudad. Aunque tenemos avances, las personas se están siendo vacunadas, las tasas de casos y la positividad también están disminuyendo localmente. Tenemos que hablar también al nivel nacional. A nivel nacional, nuestras tasas de casos se han estancado a un nivel sustancial. Todavía no hay suficientes vacunas para todos los que lo desean. Agregue a esto que ayer fue el primer día consecutivo en el que los TSA, los que esculcan durante su visita al aeropuerto, examinaron a más de 1 millón de personas. Estamos viendo más viajes de los que vimos en Día de Acción de Gracias o durante las vacaciones del invierno, de Navidad y Año Nuevo. De hecho, esta es la mayor cantidad de viajes que hemos visto desde el 15 de marzo del año pasado, más de un año que hemos visto esos números de personas viajando en el aeropuerto. Así es que vamos a tener mucho cuidado. Es posible que algunos viajen a estados que no estén siguiendo las precauciones y algunos de esos estados viajen a nuestras ciudades. Eso podría significar que se presenten más casos en las próximas semanas, ahora que estamos viendo más viajeros a nuestra ciudad y personas de aquí visitando a otros locales. También nos estamos preparando para abrir escuelas con miles de niños, adolescentes y personal que regresen a la instrucción en persona. Queremos que todos nuestros lugares comerciales y escolares sean exitosos. Eso va a requerir que todos hagamos de nuestra parte. Es fundamental que todos sigan siguiendo todos esos protocolos que acabo de hablar para asegurarnos que no sigamos la propagación de este virus. Sea precavido cuando sea posible. No queremos disminuir el progreso que hemos logrado hasta esta fecha y queremos enfatizar que esto aún no ha terminado. Todavía estamos en medio de una pandemia. Por último, a medida que continuamos vacunando a más y más personas cada semana, recomendamos a cualquier persona interesada en recibir una vacuna de COVID-19 que se vaya a inscribir a My Turn o Mi Turno. Es el sistema estatal de notificación y citas de la vacuna COVID-19. Tenemos un enlace a My Turn de nuestro sitio, así es que puede visitar nuestro sitio de web en la página longbeach.gov/VAXLB, o puede visitar a la página del estado que se deletrea myturn.ca.gov para registrarse. Recuerden que mencionamos hace 1 o 2 semanas que ahora vamos a tener que registrarnos por el sistema estatal. My Turn tiene como objetivo ayudar a administrar la distribución de vacunas y conectar a las personas con las vacunas a nivel regional cuando sea su turno. My Turn permite citas para vacunas dentro de 50 millas de radio y envía notificaciones oportunas a los usuarios registrados según su fase y nivel elegible. Para obtener más información sobre My Turn, visite la página de web que acabo de mencionar. Se las diré otra vez, es myturn, myturn.ca.gov, o llame a 833-422-4255. Vacunarse cuando sea su turno es una de las mejores formas de asegurarse de que esta pandemia termine. Les agradecemos por su tiempo. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos. We thank you for joining us. If you've tuned in during our Spanish translation, you can visit our Facebook page to see the press briefing from the beginning with Mayor Garcia and Dr. Davis. We thank you for joining us.